What happens when two Hollywood icons clash so fiercely on live television that the host is forced to stop the show? Today, we're diving into the explosive on-air confrontation between Whoopi Goldberg and Morgan Freeman, a verbal showdown that left audiences stunned and producers scrambling behind the scenes. This wasn't just another celebrity disagreement. It was a full-blown ideological battle that peeled back deep tensions simmering beneath Hollywood's polished surface. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you won't believe how this unfolded. The calm before the storm the morning began like any other at the View studios. Whoopi Goldberg took her usual place at the moderator's desk, coffee steaming beside her notes as the production team made final adjustments. Morgan Freeman was scheduled as the day's special guest, there to promote his new social justice documentary, Voices Unheard. On paper, it was a perfect pairing. Two respected voices in entertainment, ready for an insightful discussion. But what was meant to be television gold quickly turned into live TV chaos. "Back in 30 seconds!" the floor manager called. Whoopi flipped through her cards, expecting a routine interview. But something about Freeman's tense demeanor caught her attention. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. The red light came on. "Welcome back to The View." Whoopi began with her trademark smile. "I'm joined today by the legendary Morgan Freeman, whose new documentary, Voices Unheard, explores social justice movements across America." "Morgan, thank you for being here." Freeman nodded, his piercing eyes fixed on her. "Thank you, Whoopi. Though, I have to admit, I'm curious about your perspective on some of the topics we'll be discussing." Something in his tone made Whoopi shift in her seat. She'd been in this business long enough to sense when an interview was about to take a turn. The conversation turns confrontational. "Well," she replied smoothly, "that's what we're here for. Meaningful dialogue. Tell us about the documentary and what inspired it." But Freeman leaned forward, voice deep and deliberate. "Before we get to that, I think we need to talk about something more pressing. How certain voices in the media shape narratives about communities they don't truly understand." Whoopi's eyebrows lifted slightly. This was not on the cue cards. "Are you referring to specific cases?" she asked. "Or speaking more broadly about media representation?" "I'm talking," Freeman said, gaze unwavering, "about people who use their fame to speak for communities they've never lived in. People who believe celebrity gives them authority over stories that aren't theirs." The room went silent. Even the camera crew held their breath. "The personal becomes public. I think most people in media try to use their platforms responsibly," Whoopi said, her tone measured. "We have a duty to amplify important voices." Freeman's reply was sharp. "Amplify. Yes, but there's a difference between amplification and appropriation. Wouldn't you agree?" Whoopi felt the tension rising. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Morgan." Freeman didn't hesitate. "I'm saying that some people, including you, have built careers speaking about struggles they've observed, but never truly endured." The accusation hit like a spark to dry tinder. "Privileged." Whoopi shot back. "I think you're forgetting where I came from. I didn't start in Hollywood mansions. I know what struggle looks like. Do you?" Freeman countered, his voice cold. "Because from where I sit, you've been insulated from the real world for decades. You talk about systemic oppression from a penthouse, speaking for people whose reality you haven't lived in 30 years. Whoopi's professional mask began to crack. "That's incredibly presumptuous, Morgan. You don't know my life." "The breaking point, I know," Freeman said evenly. "That your voice has become so loud it drowns out those still living the struggle. That's not advocacy. That's performance." Whoopi's temper flared. "So because I've been successful, I'm no longer allowed to speak about my own community. Success disqualifies me from caring." "Success doesn't disqualify you," Freeman shot back. "But it does change your perspective. And when you refuse to acknowledge that, you do more harm than good. The tension was palpable. Producers signaled from behind the cameras, but neither star budged. "How dare you?" Whoopi said finally, voice rising. "How dare you come on my show and question my authenticity?" Freeman's calm only sharpened the sting. "Your show," he repeated quietly. "Maybe that's part of the problem." Morgan raised an eyebrow. Interesting choice of words. "I thought this was supposed to be a platform for diverse voices, not Whoopi Goldberg's personal echo chamber." The other co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances. Joy Behar shifted in her chair, while Sunny Hostin looked between the two, visibly alarmed. But Whoopi was far past caring about their discomfort. "You know what, Morgan," she said sharply, pulling at her earpiece. "I think this interview is over. I'm not going to sit here and be disrespected by someone who clearly came here with an agenda." "There it is," Freeman said, voice low but cutting, satisfaction curling at the edges. "The moment the mask slips, run away. Shut it down. Silence the voice that dares to question you." Whoopi froze, hand midair. "Excuse me. You heard me," Freeman continued, pressing forward. "The moment someone challenges your narrative, your authority, you retreat. You silence them. Just as you've been silencing authentic voices for years." Whoopi's eyes burned. "I have never silenced anyone. My entire career has been about lifting voices, creating opportunities, fighting for representation." "Representation?" Freeman interrupted. "Or your version of representation. There's a difference between creating space for authentic voices and creating space for voices that fit your brand of activism." "My brand of activism," Whoopi snapped, her voice rising. "What exactly is wrong with my activism, Morgan? What have I done that's so terrible in your eyes?" Freeman leaned in, his presence dominating the space between them. "You've built a cult of personality around your opinions. You've turned complex issues into simplified Whoopi Goldberg talking points. You've made yourself the final word on subjects that deserve broader discussion." "That's ridiculous," Whoopi's voice echoed through the studio. "I've never claimed to be the final word on anything. I share my opinions, just like everyone else on this show." "Do you?" Freeman challenged. "Because from where I'm sitting, your opinions become the show's opinions. Your perspective dominates. Tell me, when was the last time one of your co-hosts openly disagreed with you on a major issue?" Whoopi shot a glance toward her co-hosts. They looked down, uneasy. "They disagree with me all the time," she said, but the conviction was fading from her voice. Freeman gave a knowing smile. "Disagreements about details. Maybe. But fundamental challenges to your worldview? I don't think so." "You don't know what you're talking about," Whoopi said, her voice trembling slightly. "You don't watch the show. You don't know our dynamic. I don't need to watch every episode to see the pattern," Freeman said calmly. "I can see it right now. You're more interested in defending yourself than considering whether I might have a point." Whoopi's hands clenched into fists. "Your criticisms have no merit. They're built on assumptions, not facts." "Are they?" Freeman's tone turned razor sharp. "Then let's talk facts. When was the last time you lived in a working-class neighborhood? Worried about rent? Faced the realities you claim to represent? I don't have to prove anything to you." Whoopi shot back, her voice shaking. "I don't owe you or anyone an explanation for my background." Freeman nodded slowly. "And that's the problem. You think your past gives you permanent authority. You think because you once lived that struggle, you can forever speak for those who still do. But you're not living their reality anymore, Whoopi. You've been out of touch for decades." "My past is part of who I am," she retorted, standing up, her chair rolling backward. "It doesn't vanish because I've found success." "No," Freeman said, unflinching. "It doesn't vanish, but it ages. It becomes outdated. And when you refuse to acknowledge that evolution, when you refuse to step back and let others lead. You become part of the very problem you claim to fight. Whoopi's anger finally erupted. I cannot believe the audacity! You came here on my show to attack me personally, under the guise of an intellectual debate about representation. Freeman remained seated, composed. I came here to promote a documentary about authentic voices. If this feels personal, maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Don't you dare twist this. Whoopi snapped, pointing at him. You came here with a script, with talking points designed to provoke me. Did I? Freeman asked coolly. Or did I just ask questions you're not comfortable answering? Questions about accountability, about privilege, about what responsibility comes with the platform you hold. Whoopi's breathing was heavy now, her fury so raw the cameras zoomed in to capture every flicker of emotion. You know what your problem is, Morgan, she spat. You think that, because you've made a few documentaries and collected some awards, you're the gatekeeper of authenticity. You think you're morally pure while the rest of us are tainted by success. Freeman's eyes darkened. My problem, he said slowly, is watching people like you turn social issues into career tools, while the people actually living those struggles get left behind. Career tools. Whoopi's voice cracked. Half fury, half disbelief. You think I've exploited my platform. You think everything I've done was for personal gain. I think. Freeman replied coldly. You've forgotten the difference between advocacy and self-promotion. You've become so used to being the center of the conversation that you can't imagine stepping aside. The studio fell into thick silence. Even the producers in the control room hesitated to cut away. The confrontation was too electric to stop. Whoopi's chest rose and fell with rapid breaths. Then, in a voice low and trembling with fury, she said, You want to talk about stepping aside? Maybe you should take your own advice and stop using your platform to tear down people who are actually trying to make a difference. Freeman's eyes glinted, with amusement, or maybe pity. The difference between us. Freeman held her gaze. Whoopi, the difference between us is that I'm not afraid to interrogate my own motives. I'm not afraid to ask whether my voice should lead every conversation. And I am. Whoopi's voice climbed, control slipping. You think I don't question myself. You think I don't wrestle with these issues. I think you wrestle with criticism, Freeman said evenly. With challenges to your authority, but honest self-reflection, asking whether your voice sometimes does more harm than good. I don't see much evidence of that. Whoopi's face tightened. You don't see it because you don't want to. You came here determined to paint me as some kind of fraud, and nothing I say will change your mind. Try me, Freeman replied. Give me one example of a time you stepped back because you knew your voice wasn't the one that needed to be heard. The challenge hung between them like a thrown gauntlet. Whoopi opened her mouth, then closed it, searching for an answer that would satisfy his impossible bar. I thought so, he said when the silence stretched. You can't think of one because it's never occurred to you that your voice might not be the most important in the room. That's not fair, she protested, softer now. You're asking me to prove a negative. I'm asking you to show humility, Freeman corrected, to show you understand the difference between having a platform and deserving one. The words hit like a blow. Whoopi swayed, emotions flashing too fast to name. Anger, hurt, confusion, and something like recognition. How dare you question whether I deserve my platform? She whispered, voice trembling. How dare you suggest everything I've built is illegitimate? I'm not questioning your accomplishments, Freeman said, gentler but firm. I'm questioning whether those accomplishments entitle you to speak for people whose struggles you no longer share. Those struggles will always be part of me, Whoopi said, tears brightening her eyes. You can't erase where I came from. No one's erasing your history. he replied. But history is history. It isn't a license to narrate someone else's present. Whoopi wiped at her face, smearing makeup. So what? Shut up. Stop advocating because I've been successful. I'm saying listen more than you speak, Freeman said. Amplify current voices instead of competing with them. Your perspective is valuable, but it's not always the most relevant. The fight seemed to drain out of her. She stood, looking suddenly older, more fragile than television had ever shown. You know what? She murmured. I can't do this anymore. I can't sit here and be attacked on my own show. She turned to the cameras, tear-streaked and unflinching. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. We need to stop the show. This has gone too far. Freeman leaned back unreadable. Running again. Whoopi. Silencing the conversation when it gets uncomfortable. She spun toward him, shattered composure giving way to raw fury. I'm not running. I'm protecting this show, and our audience, from your deliberate attempt to humiliate me on live TV. The truth isn't humiliation, he said calmly. It's just uncomfortable. Your truth, she shot back. Your biased, pre-written version of who I am and what I represent. Freeman rose slowly, casting a long shadow over the desk. My version is based on observation, on patterns, on the gap between your words and your actions. What's yours based on? Whoopi opened and closed her mouth, the question pinning her in place. The weight of the moment seemed to crush her voice. This is what I mean. Freeman continued, softer but no less pointed. When asked to examine yourself, really examine, you shut down. You retreat into anger and victimhood instead of engage him. I'm not a victim. Whoopi managed barely audible. No, he agreed. You're a powerful media figure with enormous influence, which is why these questions matter and why you should be able to answer them. She scanned the room. The stunned co-hosts, frozen camera operators, producers peering through the glass. Everyone was waiting. Cut to commercial, she said suddenly, voice steadying. Cut to commercial. Now. Whoopi. Joy began tentative. Now. Whoopi repeated louder. Cut to commercial. Freeman watched, calm as ever. Even now, you're controlling the narrative. Even now, silencing the uncomfortable. Whoopi faced him one last time, eyes blazing. You came here to destroy me, to tear me down in front of my audience, and you succeeded. I hope you're proud. I came to talk about authenticity and accountability, Freeman said. If you experienced that as destruction, it says everything about your relationship to criticism. Get out, Whoopi whispered, voice breaking. Just get out of my studio. Freeman nodded, collecting himself. This is exactly the conversation Hollywood needs. The fact that you can't handle it proves how necessary it is. He turned and walked off, leaving Whoopi alone at the desk, tears streaming as the cameras kept rolling. The studio held its breath, the weight of the moment settling like a heavy curtain.